Hello everybody, it is Mandy here and I am working on making some candy cane swags, and there is a lot of preparation in making floral arrangements of any kind. My floral arrangements tend to be made with silk flowers, and so you have to use wire cutters to prepare everything. You take off all the tags, all the wrapping, and any of the parts of the flowers that seem to be in your way or what have you. But there is a lot of preparation, and it took me days to prepare everything. One of the first things that I do is I decide, okay, do I want to keep the bottom leaves? Do they look really floppy and nasty? Or do I want to push them up and make the flower look fuller? So that's what you're seeing me do here. And I push them up and then cut the stem to a length that is manageable. And then, of course, all through this, I'm disposing of various garbage. But anyway, so a lot of the pieces I find they don't have stems or anything left over, or they pop off of the stem, so I have to create a new one. So I use a floral wire and start with the end pointing towards the bottom and wrap up for about a 1/2 inch to an inch with the wire around the whole thing, and then turn it and wrap down. This helps to anchor it in really nice and tight, and it makes it a lot easier to deal with. If I don't anchor it like that, I find that the wire ends up popping off and I have to do it all over again. And yes, this causes a lot of bruises, calluses, what have you. The wire is not kind to your hands. I prefer not to wear gloves or anything. That is my personal preference. If you wish to wear gloves to protect your hands, totally your personal choice on that. Right now, you can see I'm using floral tape to wrap, and I did it the same way. Started going with the end pointing down and wrapping up and over all of the wire that I had put on there, and then I'm wrapping down. Now I'm having to run my fingers over the floral tape as I go. The heat from the fingers actually helps mold the floral tape into a shape. It sort of responds like a really thin clay. Of course, it's still the tape, but it helps it to not gap and helps it to be smoother if you're running your hands around the tape on the seams and everything. And you can just twist the end off when you're done. And you can see the whole thing is wrapped up like a stem. Now this longer wire allows me the ability to wrap the individual pieces securely onto the frame that I am using, which at this time is the shape of a candy cane, appropriate for this specific project. I found this wireframe at Dollar Tree. I actually got some of the florals and evergreen pieces from Dollar Tree as well, but I also went to various other stores, crafting stores, to get the exact pieces that I wanted. And I usually build from the bottom up and fill it in and make sure that I'm not showing any gaps or any part of the frame. This ribbon was rather difficult to deal with. I prefer ribbon that has wire built into it because it has a definite shape and you can mold it in various ways. This was a very floppy ribbon, so that was one reason why I disliked it. And it also, so it had no wire in it, so it had no definite shape, and it was flopping around and getting in my way the whole time. The other thing was it was only a single-sided design ribbon, and so if you turned it one way, it would have the design, and the other way it didn't. And that upset me. So I had to put the ribbon together in a way that I don't like to do. But I used the whole roll of this ribbon, the whole thing, for one ribbon. It takes a lot of ribbon to make a nice full bow. And it's all about preference on how big of a bow that you want, how much space you want it to take up, all of that. And this isn't typically how I wrap my ribbon. As I said, this is the shape that I had to make because it was not cooperating in the way that I wanted it to. So anyways, I am working with the materials that I have because I don't want to go to the store and I don't want to buy more. So I'm twisting the wire around the base of the ribbon to hold it together and to hold the shape that I've chosen. Now, I'm showing you here that I could pull the different ribbon loops into different positions, give the ribbon a little bit of a different shape. That's not what I wanted. I wanted it to remain floofed out in that horizontal pattern. Excuse me. And then I have the ends to be able to loop over the candy cane in different ways. And I want to make sure that the ends are clipped off nicely. There's no runs or anything like that in the end of the ribbon material. So now comes putting it onto the wreath. Now I could have covered the wire with floral tape, but it had two ends at this point, which would allow me to tie the ribbon onto the wreath base. So there wasn't really a need to put the floral tape over the wire because I could at this point hide the wire in so many of the evergreen bow pieces. I was having difficulty getting my hands to work at this point, which is why it looks like I'm struggling. Because I am. And I actually looped a piece of the wire through one of the loops of the ribbon and pulled and threaded it down through the wire frame. So then I now had the two wires at the back, and I was able to pull as tight as I could to pull the base of that ribbon down through the frame a little bit and allow it to be a little more flat, not sticking out. I wanted it to be flush in the design. So I pulled it as tight as I could and then basically used the wire like a twisty tie and then tied it around the wire framing. And you can see the end of the ribbon is actually sticking out through the back of the wreath portion through the frame. And I ended up poking myself a couple times. That's the weird movements that I'm making with my hands. But I am used to that. So anyway, I finally got it wrapped on there. And then I decided, okay, that's really sharp. and I want to make sure that nobody catches their hands on that. And so I wrapped the floral tape over the ends of the wire that were wrapped around the frame to protect the fingers that might hit it from sharp edges. And so wrapping that floral tape around there, it molds on there, like I said, like the clay, and I can get it to fully cover the ends of the wires. It takes me a little time to wrap that whole thing, but I was really pleased with it when I was done. So when I got the ribbon on there, then I wanted to turn over the wreath and floof the ribbons so that the loops were in the directions that I wanted them to be, and that the ends of the ribbon were the right length and wrapped around the different pieces that were already on the wreath. You can call it a wreath or a swag. It's not the typical circle wreath, but it's the candy cane swag, I guess. So I was really pleased with how that ribbon actually did turn out. And this is the final product. I actually really was pleased with it. And so I'm showing a few display pieces, and I actually made 4 of these. It was a surprise for my grandmother for her front porch walkway. So I'm really curious what swag you like the best. They're all different. And so here is the actual walkway, and they were designed to be a candy cane lane for my grandmother's Christmas display. She has asked for candy canes for years, and I have been working on these for 2 years trying to get the motivation, all the supplies, because it took a lot of time. So I went through and took pictures of them on the posts as well, and each of them are numbered so that you can see exactly which one is which. And of course, number 1 is the one that you saw me putting together. I hope that you liked this, and if you did, please send a like and subscribe to the channel. Take care, and I'll see you next time.